Oh, well, it's 8:01, so I'm going to get started. If anyone hops on with questions while I'm reading, just go ahead and leave your comments your questions in the comments, and then when I'm done reading, I will go back and read over the comments or the questions. Try to not have repeat questions. That way I can make sure I get to everybody and I'm not going through the same question over and over and over again. So welcome. This is the first live reading of my book, Her Blood, Their Battle. And of course that is backwards to you. Love that. If you have my book, then you can follow along with me. If not, then this is a great way for you to be able to listen. If you like audiobooks, this would be a great way for you to be reading my book if you don't have a physical copy. So this first video, we're going to start with the prologue, and then we will continue on with the next readings, go a chapter at a time. And at the end of each chapter, we will save a little bit of time for any questions or comments or thoughts. So forgive me, I hate speaking in public, and I know this is not public. This is live on a video. So I'm going to try and pretend like I am just reading out loud to myself. So excuse me beforehand. And I was told when I did a live reading at my very first book signing, I'm so monotone. I'm sorry. I save my funny, goofy voices for my children when I read them bedtime stories. So I'm not doing different voices for different characters. All right. Prologue, May 2015. You need to find a way to make contact with her. We are running extremely short on time, and our situation is only getting worse. I can hear my brother's grating voice coming from behind me, but I don't want to listen. I know time is running out before all hope is lost, but I don't want to waste my time trying to persuade a young woman of her history. Out of all the people that could have been chosen, somehow, I was the one that made the cut. I was chosen to find, protect, and convince this girl of what her destiny truly is. I would rather be at sea and fighting off raging storms than having to do this. I would say that 1720 was better for my health, but not in the sense of a normal human being. That was the year that I was turned into this horrid creature of the dark. Listening to the storm now only took me back to that horrendous night. Rain had swept up on my crew and I while we were out scavenging the Atlantic Ocean, causing the already darkened night to be much more hellish when we happened upon Edward Lowe and his crew. The rain had obscured any sight that the watchman could have had, causing him to miss Ned's very identifiable all-black flag with a bright red skeleton in the center. Soon our ships were close enough that if you chose, you could holler back and forth to each other and have every word understood. Please excuse my crying child in the background. My husband is taking care of her, I promise. Ned and I had a rocky past from the start of my sailing career. I never once agreed with his actions or how he treated women, paired with the fact that once I left, most of his crew came with me. He procured a hatred of me so foul that as soon as his crew informed him that it was my ship that they were passing, they were the ones to let loose the first cannon, almost louder than the thunder from the ever-growing storm. The ship rocked violently from the force of the first cannonball as it hit us, sending shrapnel flying everywhere, making everyone try to find cover and stay balanced at the same time. Once the rocking began to settle, my men went into action without me even having to give a command. They were on the cannons and loading them faster than I could blink. As we grew closer together, the booming sounds of the cannons from the Fancy, combined with ours, made hearing anything all but impossible. Eventually, we were close enough together that the crew from each side started swinging over to the opposing ships. Not being one that runs from a fight and wanting to end the feud between Ned and I once and for all, I grabbed the first rope that crossed my path and swung over to confront Ned myself. All the while I could feel the beating of my heart grow faster at the thought of facing him again. As I swung over, the rain and wind whipped my hair all around me, almost causing me to miss my mark. Landing with a thud, Ned's crew was on me like a horde of ants to sugar. I began to believe, as I tried to fight my way out, that this would be the end of me. Just as all hope had seemed lost, a few of Ned's crew started to disappear from the back of the horde, until finally I could see my quartermaster fighting them off one by one and helping me out of that mess. Daniel, my quartermaster, had swung over right behind, but due to the weather conditions, he landed farther down the ship. Clearly, it didn't take long for him to figure out where I had landed, because in no time, he began using his unusually large physique to help fight most of them off. Finally, there were only 2 of the bastards left. I looked over to Daniel and nodded in the direction of what looked to be the captain's quarters, signaling that I was trying to make my way over to the door. Once he acknowledged what I was trying to do, he stepped between them and myself, so their focus was on him. I gratefully took that time and ducked out of the last of the battle. Fighting through a few stragglers, I finally reached the door I had seen and kicked it open, hoping Ned would be in there, since I had yet to see him on deck. Disappointed that it wasn't the captain's quarters, I looked more thoroughly through the open door and saw a set of steps that led down below the deck. Seeing as how Ned had gotten a new ship since I had last seen him, I was unsure as to where the steps would actually lead. I could be heading to the brig for all I knew. Cautiously, I held onto the rail and took 2 steps at a time. I followed the steps blindly into the darkness until I finally reached the bottom. There was no way to see, other than the slivers of firelight that shone through the cracks from up above. With my eyesight out of the way, my other senses picked up the slack, which allowed me to hear a soft whimpering sound, as if someone was trying to hold back their crying. "Hello? Is someone there?" I asked into the darkness, unsure if I indeed would have heard a reply, or if I had been out at sea so long that my mind was playing tricks on me. "Please, don't hurt me." Surprised, I placed my hands on the dampened wall and followed it down what seemed to be a very long hall, until I felt the woman's breath against my neck. "Will you please help me escape from here?" she whispered softly into my ear. Had she not been so close, I might not have heard her. I felt extremely disgusted with my former captain as I slowly traced my hands down her side to her ankles so that I could cut loose her bonds. Ned loved to tie up the women he stole and starve them. The only way they were allowed food was if they pleased him in ways I can't even imagine. When he grew tired of them, he would toss them in with his men and they would take turns with her. My stomach churns at the memories. The number of women tossed over the side after they had been tortured and used was ridiculous. Positioning myself right beside her, I slid my hands along the wall all the way back up to her hands, which were bound high above her head, causing her to have to rely on her tiptoes completely for support. Once I cut away the ropes from her wrists, she let out a sigh of relief and fell against me, just as I knew she would. I held her in my arms for just a moment, hoping she could tell by my embrace that she was safe. In that moment, a sliver of light caught her eyes just right, allowing me to see that they were a light blue, almost white, with a few specks of gold in them. I shake my head to get rid of the nonsense, because the only times I've heard about anyone with such eyes, it never had a happy ending. I threw one of her arms behind my neck, picked her up, and began to make our way towards the exit. I go slow so as not to jar her, and as we make our way up, I can't help but think how I need to keep her safe and away from harm. Finally, we made it to the top of the steps. Looking out and around to get my bearings, I saw that while we were below, there had been a plank put down, making a bridge from Ned's ship to mine. Somewhere someone was watching out for this woman and I, because that made the perfect escape for us. I wouldn't be able to swing over with her in my arms. Making sure no one was watching us, I gently pushed her in the direction of the plank, while also checking to make sure that no one was paying attention in our direction. Feeling satisfied that we hadn't been caught, I stepped out of the doorway and made my way to where the woman waited for me beside the plank. the wind blowing her long brunette hair all around her. Just as I was within arm's reach of her, I was tackled to the ground by one of Ned's men. We rolled along the deck, grabbing, pulling, and tearing at each other, each one trying to get the better of the other. He had me pinned to the ground with his bare hands, engulfed around my throat, cutting off my airway. I punched him several times, but the man was resilient. I began to think that this was it, that this would be how my story ends. My life begins to start flashing before my eyes when I hear the most beautiful sound of metal hitting wood just to the right of my body. The man was so focused on killing me, he hadn't noticed when it landed in arm's length of both of us. So I reached my hand over and quickly wrapped my fingers around the hilt. With all the strength I had left, I used my left arm to raise the man off of me just enough that when I pulled my arm out from under him, the sword was there to greet him. As he fell, the blade pierced straight through his chest, killing him quickly. I watched as the anger slowly left his eyes, and in its place there was nothing but a void as he fell on top of me. While lying on the ground, trying to catch my breath, I turned my head and saw the woman was standing halfway on the plank between the two ships, watching with her hand outstretched towards me. I shoved the body of the guy I had just killed off of me and hopped up. I gathered myself and ran in the direction of that strange but beautiful woman. I had no doubt in my mind that she had been the one that got the sword to me. She was the only one close enough to have done it. Once back on my ship, I hollered for Daniel to get everyone back to us, that we were pulling away to safety. I was determined not to let anyone else die tonight, even if I hadn't found Ned. Soon word got around to my men that we were sailing away, and they started swinging back, some with gold that they had stolen from Ned, others with nothing but their lives. It took some doing, getting the ropes from Ned's ship untied from ours, but eventually we were set free. Slowly but surely we started making our way from Ned and his men, but not without having to let a few more cannons do some damage to their ship. Ultimately we made it far enough away that the crew and I started to cheer. Although the battle was not won, we at least got away with most of our lives. The men carried on cheering as I turned to Daniel and asked him to run the ship and put together a casualty list as I got our guests comfortable. Putting a protective arm around the lady's shoulders, we turned and began to make our way towards my quarters. As I opened the door for her to enter, a shot rang out through the damp night air. The woman's head snapped in my direction, and a gasp escaped from her lips once her eyes landed on my gut. Curious as to what made her gasp, I looked down to see red quickly soaking through my clothing and dripping down onto the wood. I couldn't help but run my fingers over where the bright red color dripped from my clothing, and then I felt it. The pain of the shot, the warmth of the blood as it continued to flow out of my body, nothing could have prepared me for this kind of pain. Clutching at the wound, I braced against the doorframe of my quarters and staggered around to see who could have betrayed me. To my surprise, in the midst of the rest of my crew, with a cap and scarf to hide most of his face, stood Ned. He had actually managed to sneak his way onto my ship and stay unnoticed. He waited until he got the best shot he could get, and he took it. I gradually started sliding down the wall of the ship and onto the deck as my men surrounded Ned to capture him, sending a blow to his face and yanking his arms behind his back while also knocking his feet out from under him. My body started to fall sideways, but just before it hit the ground completely, I felt a set of cold hands engulf my head to set me in their lap. I looked up through the foggy haze, and I saw the woman sitting right above me, looking down while stroking my brown hair out of my face. I saved the poor woman, and there she was with concern written all over her lovely face. I never got the chance to learn her name. Since rescuing her, I never got the chance to really look at her, other than seeing her blue eyes with the gold flecks in them. Looking at her now, I was able to see she had the most perfect olive skin. "Please, what is your name?" I wheeze out between pools of blood forming in my mouth. "Hush, you'll need your strength." The woman quietly strokes my hair back out of my face. "I will hush only when I know your name. It will give me peace," I begged again while I still remained conscious. "My name is Alessandra." Once hearing her beautiful name, my whole body relaxed as if hearing her name was all it took for my body to know that it was time to leave this world. Listen to me. I can save you, but I want you to know what exactly it is that I am offering you before I do it. Are you coherent enough to understand? Blink once for yes, twice for no. I didn't blink. It was like I had forgotten how, almost as if all I could do was replay old memories from years past in my mind. I don't even remember telling her my name. You, quartermaster. He is unresponsive, so I leave the decision up to you. As I lay dying, I never realized my good friend had made it back to us. I didn't even care what Alessandra said to me at that moment. Thinking back, I probably should have. But all that mattered was that I knew I had lived my life right. Unfortunately, though, because I never responded, she let my quartermaster decide, and he chose for me to live no matter the cost, even though the cost was high and non-refundable. I never caught what was said between Alessandra and Daniel because of how quickly I was fading, but I did happen to catch a glimpse of Daniel. His jaw was clenched as he nodded his head several times, and then one more hesitant nod. After that last and final nod, the woman repositioned herself so that she was on my right side. She looked at Daniel for confirmation one last time. I don't recall what he did because my eyes had finally closed for what I thought to be the last time. But after a short minute, I felt pressure and then what felt like 2 little pinpricks on the side of my neck. It felt like my life was being drained from me, as if my soul was being ripped away from my body, never to return. Eventually, a searing hot pain located at the base of my neck, painfully and slowly seeped into my entire body. I felt as though someone had peeled the skin away from my body just to pour searing hot lava directly into my veins. My eyes flew open, and I immediately scrambled away from the people that surrounded me, as all of my senses overwhelmed and crashed into me, almost causing me to black out. Victor, calm down. I will explain everything to you in time, but for now I need you to take a moment and relax. Close your eyes and just relax as you adjust to your new life. My mind was still racing as she spoke to me, but I did as she said and adapted to what I have become. Taking a deep breath to calm my nerves, I could instantly smell everything around me. I didn't just smell the saltiness of the ocean, but the seaweed that grew beneath it. Slowly opening my eyes, everything looked clearer. Though Daniel shaved this morning, I could see his beard bristles slowly growing back into place. I know that is definitely something I could have never seen before. On the other side of the boat, on the upper deck, I saw 2 of my men whispering, and if I focused hard enough, I could actually hear what they were talking about, though I wish I hadn't. Daniel, I looked to my quartermaster and dearest friend. Those 2 men, they have some explaining to do. Daniel was hesitant. Believe me, they helped Ned sneak on board. Daniel nodded, gathered a few men, and began marching their way towards the traders. Seeing I was still a little wobbly, Alessandra gave me her hand and helped me to my feet. She's a lot sturdier than I would have given the woman credit for. But then again, she did just bring me back from the dead. Here I go. I'm starting to get all messed up now. I had just gotten my feet under me and steady when Daniel delivered the 2 men in question. So, gentlemen, you 2 helped Ned onto my ship? I was curious as to how he managed to do it without being noticed by anyone, but now I see. I have 2 rats on my ship, and you both know I hate rats. Just me mentioning that I knew what they had done sent both of their pulses into overtime. I could actually see their veins popping out of their neck to withstand the amount of blood that was quickly traveling throughout their body. The smell of them sweating from nervousness is what got me the most. I felt something sharp jut out from my teeth and prick my tongue. Daniel, your captain is still not well. Though he is correct about the 2 lowlifes, he still isn't well enough to dish out punishment. I will take him to his quarters and leave you to deal with these 2 as you see fit. Alessandra gently led me by the elbow into my quarters and laid me onto my cot. Victor, I need you to listen. The candle lighting the room seemed so bright that I had to squint up at her so as not to get a headache. What I have done to you comes with a great responsibility. You'll need to learn self-control and find ways to curb your appetite. What am I? What have you done to me? I asked in terror as the thought of being something that needed to have control over my appetite. Victor, did you hear a word I just said to you? I was dying only moments ago, and now, Victor, I understand that you're confused and scared, but right now we need to get you calmed down so your men can see that they have not lost their captain. Forgive me if I don't give you my full attention. I was dying only moments ago, and now I'm able to hear people from yards away, and the pulse of their heart inside of their body. Give me a damn minute to come to terms with what has just happened. I hated snapping at her, but everything was happening so fast. Victor, you'll have centuries to come to terms with who you are now. You have only minutes to gain control of yourself before stepping back through that door. I'll never forget the fear I felt as she informed me of my fate. I'm not sure how long my brother has been talking, but it's been long enough for me to ignore him and then be admonished for not listening. Yes, Zachariah, I hear you. I pause so that I can take a moment to keep myself from ripping my brother a new one. How did I end up getting chosen to be the babysitter anyway? Aren't there plenty of your people that would have jumped at the opportunity? My brother gives me a sideways glance and shakes his head in disappointment. I knew you weren't listening. This is how we can ensure your way into heaven. If you get the girl for us, your soul will be restored and guarantee your happiness in the afterlife. Cheers from the crowd of the graduation we were watching erupted into the night sky. I can barely see her long, beautiful red hair as she weaves through the crowd to her family with the most contagious smile anyone could ever have. Don't forget, if I do this, my whole crew will be saved, not just me. I wouldn't be standing here if it wasn't for them. My brother slowly turns to me with a wide smile. Of course. I'll be sure that everything is taken care of. You won't have to worry about a thing. Looking back at the crowd, we watch just a little bit longer as her red hair flows in the wind while she stands with her friends and family getting pictures taken, never knowing that she'll never be the same again.